At the club, the young woman, Cassie, greeted the crowd with her usual spark of energy. She sang with full passion, turning her band into the main highlight of the night. As the song ended, the audience cheered and she introduced herself. But after just one performance, the stage power suddenly shut down. Cassie called out Billy, the club owner, saying he was the one who pulled the plug. She wanted to keep performing, but still wrapped up with a cheerful goodbye. After leaving the stage, she put on her apron for her waitress shift and thanked the departing crowd, who complimented her music. Nora, her friend and bandmate, pointed behind her. There were Marines at the club. Cassie sighed deeply, bracing for what she called chaotic trouble whenever Marines showed up, but her mood flipped when she heard a familiar voice. Frankie, her childhood friend. She nearly jumped into his arms, excited to see him. She told Nora that she used to babysit him back in the day. Frankie told her that he and his buddies were getting deployed to Iraq in 2 weeks and came to unwind. Nora teased Cassie by saying she had a thing for military guys. Just to mess with her, Cassie went over to get their drink orders, offering the first one on the house. Everyone ordered tequila except one Marine, who asked for a Coke, which caught her attention. The guys teased him while she prepared the drinks. Noticing Luke eyeing Cassie, Frankie warned him off, saying she was like his older sister. Nora overheard and said she was only joking earlier about Cassie liking military men. When Cassie returned with the drinks, one Marine tried to flirt with her. Crossing a line, she got angry and walked away. Luke approached her to apologize on behalf of his friend Armando, saying he talked too much because of stress before deployment. Cassie wasn't convinced and told Luke he was likely just like his buddy. He laughed, calling her predictable, and argued about her assumptions regarding the military. She cut him off and returned to Nora. Nora joked about another Marine who looked 12 and told Cassie she'd at least get great health insurance if she married him. They laughed at his terrible flirting, and Cassie's phone rang. She stepped outside, asking Nora to cover for her. Sitting in her old car, she hid the overdue rent letters on the seat. She checked her blood sugar and injected herself with one of her last insulin doses. Later at a pharmacy, she tried convincing the cashier to give her more insulin, but her insurance wouldn't cover it. The cashier said she could purchase one for $500, which she couldn't afford. Her mom arrived and paid what she could, urging Cassie to prioritize her health. But even then, it wasn't enough. Cassie decided she would try to last until Friday without more doses and left. The next day, Luke was out running when a truck nearly slammed into him. He dodged it and ran through an underpass, but the truck followed. He barely climbed a fence before it trapped him. Jono stepped out, an old acquaintance. Impressed by Luke's agility, he joked about Luke passing a Marine drug test, then invited him to get high with him. Luke refused, saying he was clean now. Jono reminded him he still owed 15 grand Luke promised to pay before deployment. Jono agreed, but hinted at harming Luke's family if he didn't pay, making it clear he wasn't joking. Back in her neighborhood, Cassie returned home with her mom, who saw another overdue rent notice on the door. Cassie opened the door using her broken doorknob. Her mother asked why she was living like this, urging her to return home. Cassie explained she bartended, delivered food, performed gigs, and taught piano to her landlord's daughter. She was exhausted and constantly worried about her health, which had no cure. Her mom broke into tears, blaming herself for not being able to support her. Cassie comforted her, assuring her everything would be fine. That night at the club, Cassie performed again, but suddenly ran out of breath. She stepped off stage, dizzy, and nearly collapsed outside. She injected the last of her insulin and slowly recovered. Then she noticed a Marine Corps badge on a window and remembered something her friend had mentioned, an idea that could help her. The next morning, she went to Frankie's place, but Luke opened the door, surprising her. She ignored him and asked for Frankie. She told Frankie about his mom throwing a big farewell party. When he asked why she came, she told him she wanted him to marry her. He laughed, thinking she was joking, but she wasn't. She revealed she had diabetes and couldn't afford treatment. Luke listened from the doorway. Cassie told Frankie that marrying him would give her access to Marine spouse health insurance. Luke barged in, saying it was a common scam and illegal. Cassie snapped back that she didn't care about committing fraud against a government that didn't care about people like her or her immigrant mother. Frankie told Luke not to argue with her. Cassie asked again if Frankie was in, but he said no because his girlfriend wouldn't understand. Cassie congratulated him for getting back with his high school sweetheart, but was devastated inside. Luke asked Frankie why Cassie couldn't rely on her parents. He explained Cassie's mother barely got by, and her father had abandoned them long ago. The next morning on his run, Luke passed his old garage. He saw his father leaving, and soon his nephew Spence spotted him. Luke played with him before the kid brought him inside to his parents. His sister-in-law hugged him, surprised at how much stronger he looked. Then his brother appeared, saying Luke resembled their dad with the haircut. Luke admitted he owed someone money. His brother immediately knew it was Jono and refused to help, afraid the trouble would return to their family. Luke stayed silent when asked what would happen if he couldn't pay, making it clear the danger was real. Luke then went to Jono's place and handed him what little money he had. Jono got furious. It was nowhere near 15 grand. Losing patience, he pointed a gun at Luke. Terrified, Luke explained his plan. He knew a girl who needed Marine spouse insurance, and the payout could cover the entire debt. Jono lowered the gun, but warned Luke not to mess this up. The next day, Luke called Cassie and asked her to meet at a restaurant to discuss the agreement. He told her they'd need a believable story and should stick to it. He even created a detailed version of how they fell in love, asking her to commit to the narrative. Cassie was surprised that the same man who warned her about government fraud was now insisting on it. Luke didn't want to explain, but she pushed him until he told her he needed an extra $2,000 each month for a while. He hid the real reason, but admitted he needed help. Cassie said she never agrees to something blindly and refused unless she trusted him. When she mocked the army, Luke got upset and tried to leave, but she apologized and they sat to plan everything. They decided to stay in regular contact so their marriage would look real, and once he returned from Iraq, they would divorce. She would get insurance for a year, and he would pay off what he owed. He asked her not to tell anyone about their arrangement and left. The next day, Luke arrived in uniform while she was still in casual clothes, so he told her to dress properly. She changed into a white dress. At the venue, Frankie waited with a ring box, a real diamond ring he had saved for his girlfriend Riley. He insisted she keep it until he was old enough to marry. They were called inside, exchanged vows and rings, and shared a soft kiss as everyone clapped. At the reception, the Marines celebrated loudly until Armando shouted a violent slur. Cassie argued with him, and the fight escalated until Luke stepped in, got angry, and walked out. Frankie signaled her to follow him. Outside, Luke complained she couldn't stay quiet for one day. She argued back about their obsession with guns and war. Seeing others watch them, he told her to hug him so it looked like they patched things up. Later, everyone went to a hotel where Luke and Cassie discovered only one bed. After some teasing and nervousness, she kissed him, and they ended up making love. The next morning, he was already dressed, unable to sleep before his deployment. He told her to get ready too. At the military base, Cassie saw families crying as they said goodbye to their Marines. Luke reminded her they would be under surveillance from now on and gave her his brother Jacob's contact in case something happened. He warned her never to tell his father. They kissed, and his friends lifted Cassie for a final kiss before he left. Life slowly settled. Cassie treated her diabetes, paid her bills, and focused on music. Luke lived the life he always wanted and started paying off his debt. They exchanged messages about their lives, fears, and pasts. She shared how music helped her survive a rough childhood, and he told her about his family's military legacy and his mother's illness. On a video call with officers behind him, they tried acting like a newly married couple, but felt awkward. She promised to sing a song later. Inspired, she wrote a song for the soldiers. On the next call, Luke appeared bruised and exhausted after a near-fatal day. She sang her song, lifting the spirits of the whole camp, and everyone applauded. A few days later, she told him a label had offered her a slot at the Oceanside Altfest. He congratulated her before heading back to duty. She performed confidently at the event while he patrolled the desert. Soon after, she got a call from Germany, telling her Luke was injured and in surgery. Panicked, she looked for Jacob's number, but couldn't find it. She remembered his name and found his address online, but it turned out to be Luke's father. She told him everything, and together they went to the hospital. Luke's father questioned him, and Luke said he wanted to prove himself. Cassie revealed they were married. Once the family stepped out, Luke scolded her for doing exactly what he warned her not to do. With his father being military police, they now had to pretend even longer. Cassie worried what Frankie would think when he learned about this chaos. Luke realized Cassie never got the news, so he told her Frankie wasn't coming back. Hearing this shattered her. She burst into tears and ran out of the hospital, refusing to accept that her closest friend was gone. TV broadcasts honored Frankie, showing his family mourning as the army performed his final rites. Cassie later met Haley at Frankie's grave and handed her the ring Frankie had saved for her. They hugged, crying together. Meanwhile, Luke paid his own silent tribute to his fallen friend. The next day, Luke's father asked Cassie if she and Luke lived together. They made excuses, but Jason insisted they move in immediately so he could help Luke with therapy. With no option left, they agreed. Luke's family helped them shift into Cassie's apartment. Once alone, Cassie panicked about living with a man for the first time. Luke convinced her to keep pretending so their cover wouldn't collapse. They redecorated the apartment to look like a real couple's home, even placing pictures and clothes. Luke fashioned a temporary ring from his dog Tag, knowing his father would check on them often. When Luke's father and brother came over, they acted like a married couple. Cassie continued her music career while Luke focused on rehab, slowly improving. But Jono started threatening Luke again, now targeting Cassie. One day at outdoor rehab, Cassie surprised Luke with a trained golden dog named Peaches, a recovery companion suggested by Cassie. Luke felt insulted, threw the leash, but eventually accepted her. Another morning, Cassie returned with breakfast and found Luke walking on his own for the first time. Though in pain, they shared tacos, laughed, bonded, and grew closer. She cared for his wounds and later asked him to sleep next to her. That night, sleeping under the same sheets, he softly kissed her forehead. They felt themselves falling in love. Soon they visited Luke's family. His sister-in-law noticed Cassie's growing affection for him. Later, during Cassie's show, Luke got a call from her mother. Someone had broken into her house. Luke rushed there and found Cassie trembling. Jono called, admitting he did it to scare Luke and demand his money. Cassie fainted from weakness, and Luke helped her recover, holding her as she kissed him softly. The next day, Luke confronted Jono and beat him down. He warned him never to approach Cassie again and threw his gun away. Luke then visited Frankie's grave, confessing Cassie was becoming more than just an arrangement. Back home, he found Cassie packing. Her mom had been threatened by someone covered in blood, Jono. Cassie was furious. Luke finally told her everything: his substance addiction after his mother's death, how Jono trapped him, and how he stole a Corvette and owed a huge debt. He married her only to escape his debt. Although he paid Jono back, Cassie was devastated. She told him to leave and that she would file for divorce. While Cassie performed her heart out on stage, her band got an invitation to Hollywood. Meanwhile, Luke, now running again, was picked up by military police. He was charged with a fraudulent marriage. Cassie received a call from Luke's father, who was heartbroken. She rushed to court the next day. When Luke entered, their eyes met. After hearing the accusations, Luke stood up and took full responsibility, begging the court to spare Cassie. The judge agreed. Luke was sentenced to 6 months in prison and dishonorable discharge. Cassie was stunned. The next day, she watched her wedding photos before stepping on stage for the biggest performance of her life. Before singing, she realized something. She performed a song straight from her heart about Luke, their moments, his kiss, his embrace, their nights together. After the show, she rushed to the camp where Luke was being taken. Meanwhile, Luke said goodbye to his family, hugged his father, who finally told him he was proud, and petted Peaches for the last time Cassie arrived, just as Luke was being taken away. She told him they had lived every vow of their marriage, and she wanted the rest of her life with him. He tried to tell her it was too late, but she stopped him. For her, their marriage was real. She loved him. They kissed deeply. Luke told her he loved her too. Handing her his ring, he asked her to keep it safe until he returned. Cassie slid it on her finger along with the dog tag ring. Luke left in the van again, but this time, their love was real.